All right, everybody, we'll get started here. I now call the December 17th, 2025 Sugarland 4B Corporation meeting to order.
On the December 17th, Sugarland Development Corporation meeting is now called to order.
Are there any public comments today? Okay, we'll close the public comments. We'll now move on to item 3 or 4. So the joint workshop review of and discussion on the proposed full year 26 public relations marketing program and the associated contract with Lou Hammond Group for the Office of Economic Development and Tourism in the Department of Redevelopment. And Jordan and Emily will lead us through this.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Jordan Cutler. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager. I oversee the marketing for the Sugarland Office of Economic Development and Tourism. And then I'm with Emily Pollard. She is our Communications Manager for our Department of Redevelopment. We both collaboratively work on the marketing communications that represent EcoDev. So today we're going to go through our public relations contract renewal. We'll have some context about how we got here to this point. We conducted an RFP at the last year that brought us to this public relations contract and the cause for us to renew it this year. So throughout the presentation, we'll just give an introduction again, just to kind of talk about who we are, what we do as an economic development department, some of our goals, who we target, really define what public relations is, just so you guys have some context about what this contract covers and also the impact of it. And then we'll kind of go into the public relations contract background, again, what led us here through our RFP process that we did last year. And then we'll go with our recommendation for renewal. Again, this is just a workshop, so we'll also have time at the end for questions as we move forward through the process. So we are, again, I'm Jordan. I oversee the marketing and communications for economic development and tourism. Overall, economic development supports and attracts companies that create primary jobs to strengthen Sugarland's tax base. The tourism is really driven through our hotel occupancy tax, and so really creating awareness around what to do in Sugarland and awareness to drive hotel stays for our city. And then I'll push it over to the Department of Redevelopment, where Emily can introduce who she is and her impact. But just to keep in mind, these departments are directly tied to the city's strategic action plan, and so the work that we do really reflects the strategic action plan, and it all ends according to that. So, yeah.
As she said, I'm Emily Pollard. I'm the communications manager for the Department of Redevelopment, and I handle the marketing and communications for the Department of Redevelopment. As a department, we focus on strategic revitalization of aging commercial areas and underutilized sites to unlock future growth. We also lead efforts to reinvest in infrastructure, attract private development, and reimagine those underutilized spaces to enhance Sugarland's livability and long-term prosperity. And the reason why we are kind of presenting this is because we share the same heart. So our goals on the marketing and communication side of economic development, tourism, and redevelopment is to elevate Sugarland's brand as a premier destination through strategic, data-driven marketing that drives tourism, aligns messaging, tells authentic stories, and delivers memorable experiences while measuring impact and supporting our priority audiences, which I'll cover on the next slide. And it's important to clarify the differences between the city's communications department and Jordan and I's departments as they pertain to marketing and communications. We have different functions in the city's communications team. They have their own communications team, but we do work very collaboratively and frequently to make sure that we have cohesive storytelling and are actively exploring ways to enhance our messaging across resident-focused channels to make sure that we showcase why economic development, tourism, and redevelopment are important functions of our city and how it impacts residents. So a little bit more about our target audiences. They include C-suite executives and corporate decision makers within our target industries of life sciences, advanced manufacturing, business and professional services, information technology, and tourism. Also developers and investors, high-growth startups, future workforce, or quality workforce and future talent, visitors and cultural explorers, event producers, meeting planners, and regional partners. So we have a four-prong approach to our marketing and public relations strategy. Today we're focused on public relations and communications, but there's also digital marketing and advertising, and sponsorships, which include these functions here. But again, we're focused on public relations and communications today. So let's dive into that a little bit more. Public relations is the strategic management of how an organization is seen by the public. It builds credibility through media coverage, clear messaging, and thought leadership, while ensuring the organization's story is communicated accurately and effectively. It's important to remember that there's a snowball effect of media relations. So even though not every story is directly pitched by our team, they compound on each other. So the more media that we put out and the more coverage they see, the more larger outlets will continue to cover us. And so this is just a great example of a story that came out following our sort of proactive media pitching. If you don't remember, earlier this year, we had a story in the New York Times about Sugar Land, Texas, where cultural diversity is a point of pride. And that had 129 million unique monthly visitors for the New York Times. So essentially the reach of that story. And then it earned media value of nearly 75,000. So I'm going to kick it back over to Jordan to cover why PR works.
So again, Emily covered a little bit about the different functions of marketing and how we kind of take on marketing. Public relations is just one facet of that. And so public relations is shown to be 90% more effective than advertising, which is paid media. So essentially, the stories that we're doing through our public relations firm are not paid. We're not paying journalists to cover them. Our media and public relations team is developing relationships with those outlets to then pitch stories. And that, of course, builds credibility because people will know that we're not paying for these things. These are journalists writing these stories based on the stories that we kind of give them. It drives 15 to 30% year over year increase in earned media exposure. Again, kind of mentioning what Emily was saying, as time progresses, those stories simply compound. And the more local and regional that we get, the larger opportunities we have for national coverage, which is, of course, always a goal of ours. Earned media again is viewed as more trustworthy than paid ads. The typical ROI is 3 to 8 times the initial investment, which we'll see later when we kind of showcase the value of this contract. And then another reason to outsource this contract as opposed to having it internally is because, again, we're focusing on regional and national outlets. That's our goal for this contract. And the relationship development process of that takes a lot of time. You have to meet with a lot of journalists. You have to keep those relationships, handy, and you have to pitch them. And so all of that time allocated is just something that is better outsourced, preferably than having in-house. And again, I'll talk about kind of what we did through our RFP process that brought us to kind of keeping public relations outsourced in comparison to some of the other functions of marketing that we do. So back in September of 2024, we issued an RFP. The purpose of that was to refine the scope. We had an overall marketing kind of firm that handled a lot of different things for us. And so with this RFP, we look to reduce that scope and solely bring public relations out of house and bring everything else in internally. And so through that, we were able to reduce the vendor cost through a competitive bid process. We worked with our purchasing team to do that. And then, of course, creating a unified narrative as we talk about redevelopment, economic development, and tourism. We wanted to have one story and kind of one message that we were pitching across media. And so this scope allowed us to do that. Result of that RFP, we had 6 competitive proposals. The max budget that we set for that was $140,000. The previous contract that we had that was all encompassing of public relations and just general marketing services was $257,000. And so again, with that, we look to reduce that scope. Through that process, RFP process, we selected Lou Hammond Group, which is based out of Charleston, South Carolina. They have 7 offices, over 45 employees, and over 50 clients. Some of their clients include Visit Baton Rouge Area Chamber, Explore Charleston, again, kind of showcasing the agencies and firms that they work with that kind of represent both economic development and tourism-related departments and divisions. Again, our RFP maximum budget was $140,000. With the competitive bid process, they were able to come in at $120,000. And so this represents the yearly kind of proposal and contract amount, with it being split 3 ways with SLDC, SL4B, and HOT, so $40,000 each. Again, it's well below our previous $257,000 contract and also underneath the $140,000 RFP cap that we had. So again, to kind of showcase the ROI, we've had well over 1 million reach year to date. And through that, again, the earned media value that we've had from February to November is over almost 630,000. So looking at what we spend for a yearly contract of 120,000, the earned media for that is over 5-to-1 ROI. So with this, we are looking to renew this contract for 70,000 to take us through the full fiscal year, and then a total of 190,000 to kind of take us also through FY27. Not included, but highly impactful. Again, this really helps us with community awareness, public perception, again, national and regional visibility. They've been doing great work and they've got us a lot of earned media value. And so we just really want to continue to build on that momentum. So through the services provided, we have public relations and media strategy. So again, that is working with those journalists to develop media stories and really having relationships with the journalists that cover across both national and regional outlets, helping us with strategy and message development for particular projects, public relation campaigns that support, again, all three divisions. We have a component of their scope includes awards and recognition and thought leadership. So again, we have examples of that in the next couple of slides, but we've had Devin, receive Women Who Mean Business awards. We've had a lot of our team members be on different panels throughout the year through BizNow. And so that is a direct correlation with some of the work that they're doing, whether through pitching or again, as we raise awareness, some of those come naturally just because of the awareness that we're generating. And then of course, story pitching and placements, they facilitate media missions and fam tours. So essentially when we want to invite journalists in or media outlets into the city to tour the city and do stories on that, they also help with those as well.
So now that you know a little bit about the service Lou Hanlon provides, let's look at some examples of how we've seen some success over this past year. So this is just a look at the top 4 stories based on a combination of reach, value, and that they were some of our major announcements throughout the year. Surprisingly, but also not surprisingly, the first the top performing story was First Colony Mall's project when they were the first recipient of the Retail Refresh Grant. We saw over 4.3 million in earned and unique monthly visitors for that Houston Business Journal story, and an ad value of over 2,000. The second one being when Imperial was acquired and we made that announcement, there was 2 million reach from KHOU. And then when AOI reshored their production to Sugar Land with that $8 million growth plan, Houston Business Journal's story on that one was one of the top stories from this past year. And then when Sugar Land announced that their host city supporter partnership with FIFA World Cup, that was another huge one. Couple of different awards and recognitions and thought leadership examples, as Jordan mentioned earlier. We had Devin recognized by Houston Business Journal as one of the women who mean business. Then we had Devin as a finalist for the Economic Developer of the Year with the Houston Commercial Real Estate Awards through Red News. And then we also received an accolade as the Livability's top 100 best places to live. Here's some broadcast and on-air segments as examples of coverage that we've seen. Elizabeth was on Hello Houston to talk about the FIFA partnership. Devin was on KPRC to talk about the Imperial Visioning workshops coming up at that point. And then the mayor and Allison were both on Great Day Houston just week before, to talk about the FIFA watch party. And then Anna Rodriguez was on Univision to talk about the Great Homes Expansion Project. And Devin has a little bit more about this coverage that we've gotten from the Great Homes Expansion in her director's report later today at the end of 4B. And we've seen some really, really incredible reach on that one. Looking ahead, let's take a look at kind of the areas that we've started to focus on. Now that we've had a successful year, we're able to kind of look at how we can really fine tune our scope and focus areas. And so that includes on the economic development side, national placements highlighting life sciences, tech, professional services, and advanced manufacturing. Also positioning leadership as industry thought leaders, leveraging FIFA sponsorships to elevate the regional airport and business-friendly environment, media support for Track 2 Innovation Fund and our office infill strategy. And then on the redevelopment front, continue regional and national positioning of Sugar Land as innovative and forward-thinking and ready for that next chapter of growth. Also coverage of Imperial Historic District, Lake Point Green, and the repositioning of Town Square, and elevating redevelopment leaders as industry experts. And then on the tourism front, positioning Sugar Land as a regional destination for travelers, pitch locally owned culinary stories, share tourism impact stats, and secure FIFA-related travel coverage, and continue to grow visibility through content influencers and content creators. So to recap, today we've seen that we have a very significant and strong return on investment with 5 times our investment returned. And then we have optimized our approach and strategies and narrowed our focus areas for this upcoming year. We've seen national level media coverage from a top tier PR agency. We've significantly reduced our costs from previous contracts, and this all supports tourism, economic development, and redevelopment with a unified narrative, and builds long-term credibility through earned media. So with this in mind, we recommend renewing our PR contract. As for next steps after today's workshop, we will bring this back to you for joint board approval January 21st. And then we'll need to bring it for council, in front of council for approval on February 3rd, since it's partly funded by hot tax. And with that, Jordan and I can take any questions.
Yeah, thank you. You compared the 120K, which is the contract amount, to 257, what we spent previously. I understood that 257 was for PR and marketing both.
Correct.
So does that mean that there will be no separate contract for marketing now?
So all of the, there are not separate contracts for marketing as relates to the services that we do. Most of the services are done in-house. There are some things that we have to pay, for instance, with SEO and SEM. There are costs to pay for keywords and things like that. So the costs associated with those services will still be a part of our budget, which are already budgeted in our fiscal year, but we don't have a vendor who's managing those things.
But we had contact with some influencer, for example.
Yes.
Would that still be separate, or would that be all covered in this?
No, so they do handle some regional influencer work that we do, which is included in our public relations costs. But again, it's the services to coordinate those influencers. We do have services related to social media and things like that if we work with those influencers or creators, but it's separate from public relations.
So that will be a separate cost, yeah?
Correct. Yes.
Was that included in 257?
It was not.
257 was just the marketing.
It's just the services for public relations and marketing, not the fees or costs that we pay to creators or things like that.
Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, it's a significant decrease in cost, but we're not decreasing the service level.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
And again, this is a renewal, so this same cost is for a year as last year, but initially, yes, it is a cost.
Director McCutcheon, did you have a,
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we've used Lou Hamlin for the past year. Okay. And what's the difference between them and the number 2 person? They've received 6 bids on this. How would you compare and contrast those?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
I know you got 6 bids on this and you selected Lou Hamlin. What would differentiate them between the number 2 bid?
Yeah, I have to pull back our notes that we pulled because it was a committee who voted on that process. That was in relation to our our purchasing process. But from what I recall, a lot of we really prioritized, number one, a vendor that had experience in all 3. It's very complicated trying to find a vendor who has experience in tourism because that world is very different than economic development. So really prioritizing finding someone who could speak to all 3 was a huge bucket of that. And then also who had relationships with national and some of the regional outlets that we're trying to garner was some of the 2 that I remember off the top, but I can share.
Well, at one of the last press releases, I looked at the draft. I had like a dozen changes to it, and I looked down at the bottom and say, "Who wrote this?" And it was Lou Hamlin. So I was a little disappointed with the caliber of one of the recent pieces.
Yeah, we can definitely make sure that they have a feedback in regard. We have a review process that we review internally, and then we share it with our CNECOM team, again collaborating, and then we typically share it from there to you all.
Okay, because I was a little surprised with that.
Director Watley?
Yes, thank you. I have a few questions. You know, this is always so vague because I'm an ROI person, that's tangible to me, but this is so vague. So please be patient. So why are we adding 70,000 to this? We should have already paid that, or shouldn't that have been in last year's budget?
Correct. So we're trying to align this contract with the fiscal year. When we went to when we came last time, we were not in alignment with our fiscal year. So we had to do a contract that took us to the end of essentially now, which would be February. And so this contract will bring us to the end of this fiscal year, but then also continue on into the next fiscal year so that by the time that contract's in, we can start on a fiscal year process.
Oh, so we're still at 120 for each contract. So make sure. And the other thing was, how do you calculate the add value? I mean, do you see all these add values, and that's interesting. Is there a way you calculate that?
Yeah, they have a metric that they use to calculate. Usually it's by reach, and then they calculate it based on what it would cost to advertise. So we talked about paid and earned media. So and also something to note, we haven't done any paid media with the Lou Hammond Group. Everything that we've done has been earned up to this point. And so they typically kind of correlate it with what if we had to do an advertising or earned media opportunity, what that would cost based on the number of views that they get. And with the number of views that monthly, that outlet receives on a monthly basis, they kind of calculate it based on that.
Okay, last one. And lastly, talking about Director Evans.
I answered either, whatever.
Comment. The looking ahead slide, can we go to that one? So I'm looking at this and I'm going, what do you do on that? And what do they do? Where does it cross over? And you guys do a great job. And if they're not doing as great of a job as you are, I would have to question that, because I want to know where we all cross over and what do we not cross over.
Yeah, so again, they just focused, I'm actually gonna go back to this slide temporarily just to kind of set some context. So everything that is in the bottom three, our team internally handles. So everything related for digital marketing, social, all that, sponsorships, everything, those are the bottom three. So we're only focusing on the public relations and communications sector of that. And then to go back to this, so of course, the projects that we do are managed through our team. So as economic development works on a project for them, we are, in charge of developing the messaging for that and just kind of pulling it all together. And then we incorporate, so similarly, some of the projects that we've presented, we incorporate a public relations component with this project that we're doing, whether it be economic development or World Cup related, what's the public relations kind of category of that? And then we'll give that to Lou Hammond for them to develop. Here's what we think that we should, here's the outlets that we should be on, here's what we should be pitching, and then they kind of handle it from there.
Okay, so you give it to them.
Correct.
Can I add?
Yeah,
to that as
absolutely.
well? I wanted to go back to this slide here. So this is all the services that they provide. They are, as Jordan mentioned, actively sort of building those relationships with media. They also handle the distribution to make sure it reaches the right outlets, the right messaging, and they really are working on the back end for weeks and months ahead of time, kind of plugging in these seeds that this story is coming. They also help us with embargoed pieces, meaning people will have the story before we tell them that, okay, go ahead. So they're the first one to get it out, which helps a lot with controlling the narrative around certain things. And then also internally, we handle the talking points, the strategy, the project updates, things like, we work together on the strategy, but sometimes we're able to really lean on their expertise and say, we have this issue or this concern, something like that, a sensitive topic that we really need your guidance on. And so that's where we kind of cross over and tag team.
Last one.
Maybe last one.
Second last one, sorry. But I want to make it clear, I understand the need for someone in this position to have a broader reach. We can't do what they do because they have all the contacts. That's what they do. My concern was not even concern, my curiosity was how do we get it to them to make sure the story is consistent with what we want to deliver and that it's done correctly in a way that reflects well on us. I mean, if it's not delivered well, it reflects on us.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we're delivering it, we're overseeing it, and they are marketing it.
Yeah, and that's our process. So all of the things that we do, we have, key messages that we develop internally. Usually our process is for a project, we talk internally, kind of strategize the goal, the audiences for it. We develop that and then we send it to them. And then we kind of go through that review process of when they draft a press release or when they're developing messaging and pitching, making sure that we have our eyes on that before it gets sent out.
So, just to clarify that, we approve anything before it gets sent out.
Correct.
And one follow-up, sorry.
Yeah, go follow up.
Sorry, back to the calculation of the ad value. I'm assuming they do that calculation?
They do.
how do we, you know, if I'm the company you're hiring to do that, I'm gonna make damn sure those numbers come out in my favor. How do we validate that, and make sure that they're not, puffing themselves up?
Great question. I've never actually had to do that because most times it's based on the number of the outlet, but we can definitely look into that and just maybe get a fact check on our end to
Yeah.
double check, yeah.
I can't remember the name of the third-party service that they use, but they do use like a calculation, sort of service that will tell you, depending on the outlet, depending on that outlet's reported unique monthly visitors and ad value, that's where they get those calculations from.
So they provide it to us, but they're actually using a third party to do that calculation.
Most public relations firms have like a database or like a tool that they utilize to calculate that. Yeah. That's right, they're on here. Are they there? Sarah, are you online?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I'll cut out.
Yeah, we had a question about how you all calculate your earned media value stats. Do you have
Yes, so it's a formula. It's basically you take the UVM, which Emily shared, like it would be, for example, Houston Business Journal, that readership number, you take that and then it's math, but you multiply it by the industry standard, which is the estimated percentage of how many visitors to an outlet for a given article. So obviously, let's say the number's 2 million. Not all 2 million people are going to view that specific story. So we take a percentage of that and then we multiply it by the industry standard dollar value per visitor. So it's I can send it to Jordan to share, but it's just a formula and it's the same pretty much used across all agencies, and it's based on a platform we use, and they kind of created the industry standard for all of these. So we use the monthly unique visitors and then multiply it by a bunch of numbers, and it creates the ad value, if that makes sense. Sorry, that was a bad explanation.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
In the contract that we read, there's a 3% increase annually. Is that going to kick in February when we renew?
No, so this will be encompassing of all up until the end of FY 27. And then from there, they have like a 3% increase that covers like inflation and things like that.
Also, they listed all these a la carte charges that
Yes.
they do. So where is that money going to come from?
Yeah, I think an example of that is great. Kind of going back to your question about the influencers. So those are like, let's say we have an influencer, for instance, we partnered with 2 Dallas dads last year that came in from Dallas. So those are just estimated costs for our team to budget. If we have an influencer that's coming in, here's what you should estimate. Those are not costs that are for Lou Hammond. Those are costs that are related to opening an influencer, hosting a potential media outlet that might come in during that time. So that's just for awareness for us as we budget for 4 outlets a year, et cetera.
Follow up for that question. So those expenses are reimbursed via the city of Sugar Land, or those are paid for by Lou Hammond Group?
For instance, they're working with an influencer, they will negotiate the contract because a lot of times they work to reduce the contract or the amount that an influencer or creator might charge. And so from there, they pay the journalist and we reimburse them. I'm sorry, pay the creator influencer and then we reimburse them, not the journalist.
And then those add-ons are something that we review or revisit as a group here, or those are, let's say, included and they're just passed
They're
regardless?
not included, it's just kind of an estimate because not all creators charge the same, not all, like, let's say we have a media tour with journalists from, US Travel News, that may not be the same if we have journalists that are coming in. It just depends on the group amount, and those are nominal costs. They're not anything related to the contract amount. So it may be like 1,000, for an influencer or, it just depends. So those estimates are in there.
And those come out of our general marketing budget, right?
And this all has already been allocated. There's nothing additional to what has already been approved.
Any other question? Yeah, different line of question, but similar. So who decides the messaging that we're trying to give with the, whether it's the social media marketing or the influencers that we come in? What are we trying to show as a city? And is it on brand with our city? I guess where I'm going. Like, who decides what that brand is as a city?
So for the departments, we presented our marketing campaigns that we are just launched, the Ready for Something Sweeter for economic development, and then the Sweeter with You for our Business Sugarland brand. So everything that we're doing ties into that messaging that we've presented to you all. And then of course we have one-off projects or different things that will maybe target specifically, for instance, the World Cup is a part of that Sweeter with You messaging as we invite visitors in. But we also, might hire them to kind of do specific messaging to, I don't know, holiday or something like that. And that again is encompassing into that. But everything that we do targets the audiences that we've built that are overall economic development targets and tourism and redevelopment targets. Does that answer your question?
How do we measure how we're doing?
For public relations, you're specifically?
For this, we're going after these people. How do we know we're on the mark?
For marketing, I can only speak to our marketing and public relations. We have metrics tied to the number of outlets that we received. We have metrics tied to the increase of awareness on our platforms for social media, our newsletter subscribers going up. So all of our digital platforms and marketing related things have ROIs attached to them.
Furthermore,
I'm gonna throw one more out there. So we've been using this company.
For a year, yes.
So part of it says they're going to now develop and pre-approve a strategy and program to position division team as industry leaders, and that's one of their talking points. Haven't they already done that?
Is it?
Pardon me?
No, go ahead.
But what have they been doing if they're just now going to develop?
Yeah, so it's a continual process. As new projects come up, as new things are arising that we do as a department, it's our job to continuously pitch our media and our team to media and to different thought leader opportunities so that we're constantly keeping our name in. So just because we've done it once, it has to be an ongoing process. Otherwise, we lose that awareness momentum.
and just final, I just like to compliment you guys for delineating and then differentiating your focus, reducing the budget significantly, and I would assume it's gonna be more efficient because you're focusing on what you're good at and you're leveraging what you can't do with them. And I think that's just outstanding way to run it.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Madam City Clerk, am I correct in understanding that the business of the SLDC has concluded? And so it would be appropriate for me to ask Director Single if you'd like to move to adjourn the SLDC? The SLDC is adjourned. Sanjay and Rob, you guys stay.
That's the short answer.
At least she's entertaining.
He is entertaining.
Oh, we got plenty of people.
For me.
Hey, Rob. Good job. I made it here just in time. I had to get done with my 3:30 meeting. You didn't see me on there on the computer screen? Yep.
You were dialed in before.
Dialed in, you couldn't see me or what? I need a mount. Right, I hung up and then I watched it. All right, I'm on 4B, yeah. We'll continue here, on the next item, annual ethics training. We'll receive annual training related to Sugarland Code of ethical conduct and state laws regulating ethics and reporting responsibilities of city officials. And Meredith will take us through this.
I want to thank you all for joining me yet again. I know you're all ethical people, so this should not be a real big deal for you. We're just going to check the box. So you're saying, what are we doing? Playing the game of ethics today, my friends. So we have 3 objectives of our game we're going to play. First one is going to receive our mandatory training. And second one is also mandatory. Got ahead of myself. Third one, and fingers crossed, that if you successfully serve your term and you don't have to come in front of my ethics board because it's just no fun for me or for you. So who gets to play this game? Well, we invite members of city council for A4B, members of our boards and commissions, and for some of the regulations, we invite former members of council, boards and commissions, and every once in a while we do invite candidates just because it's a fun game to play and we want them to join in. We also invite our residents to pay attention because I will go over the items if you want to file a complaint and the steps to follow to do so. There are only 8 simple rules to this game. We'll go through them quickly. So first one is conflict of interest, special economic benefit. And you're saying, okay, tell me what conflict of interest is. Conflict of interest is if you, your spouse, your children, your parents have a business entity on an item, on the agenda before you, that is, and you own 10% or $15,000 or more, the fair market value of that business entity. Or if it's real property on the item before you, it's a low value of 2.5 thousand fair market value of that property. And you say, okay, this is great. I think I have an economic benefit in an item. What do I need to do? You need to file a conflicts disclosure statement with the city clerk's office by 5 p.m. on Friday before the date of the meeting. Abstain, and we're going to ask that you walk out of the room. We all know you're honest people. We all know the words and conditions are, but just for the sake of the people sitting at home, we want to make sure there's no texting, hand signs, or whatever it might be to cause any sort of confusion or concern. So you also get to brag to us when you are related to a vendor. We all like to know if you have your family member, such as your spouse, your parents, or your children, are related to a family member who has an item on the agenda, and that family member receives taxable income that exceeds $2,500 in the past 12 months. And it's the third degree consanguinity or second degree by affinity. You may know what that is. I don't know. I have a beautiful chart sitting on my desk. So if you would like a copy of that chart, you can follow me upstairs afterwards and I'll be able to give you a copy. Off the top of my head, I don't know. So it's holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah. We get to be giving gifts, receiving gifts. I call them gifts. The district attorney calls them bribes. So to keep everybody happy, we're going to follow state law and you get to brag to us about the gifts that you have received. So state law and our code of ethics require you to disclose gifts of lodging, transportation, entertainment, and food on a form, which gets filed with the city clerk's office. Once you reach $100 for those items individually. So if you get a ticket to a sporting event and you're being fed there, congratulations. You have two separate $100 things to fill out. However much your hot dog and beer cost, as well as the tickets to the sporting event. Those are two separate forms. You'll notice the very last item has an asterisk next to it, just in case they do more than give you like a fruit basket. And you actually have the pleasure of sitting across the table and discussing business with this vendor. Go ahead and order the appetizer, get a second dessert, maybe a doggy bag, because you now get up to $500 for the privilege of having a conversation and quality time with that vendor. So, yes.
Is the campaign contribution also part of that gift or that's separate?
Number 5, yes, sir.
Go back one. Is there a minimum that you have to report?
If you're getting a $5 gift card to Subway, that's on you. It's only once you reach $100. So the first $99.99 are free. I do recommend that you keep a rolling tally, just in case you have somebody who likes to just do small amounts so that you don't miss that dollar amount. Because not only is it a code of ethics violation, it is a state law violation. And you could go hang out with the county in their bed and breakfast and have your coworkers, your roommates prepare your meals and wash your clothes. It's not something I look forward to, so I would recommend keeping track. So the additional rules. Now I'm going to go over some rules that don't necessarily apply to all boards. But if you have aspirations, I know I have council members sitting here, but if you have aspirations of other members and other boards, just people sitting at home that want to run for council, I'm going to go ahead and go over these rules. So doing business with the city, council members are prohibited from entering into any contract with the city that's considered a substantial amount. Substantial amount for the code of conduct is $1,000. And this is for the entire term of office. So if you're a one-timer, you divide that by 3 years. If you're a lifer, you divide it by 9. So you cannot do business while working for the city. Representations and appearances, this is where I like to take the hat on and off. So if you're going to write a letter to the editor, people still do that. Post on Facebook, post on Nextdoor, you need to say, in my capacity as a 4B member, my opinion is this. Or in my capacity as a resident of the city of Sugar Land, my opinion is this. It's very important in positions such as yours and planning and zoning where there could be some confusion as to whether you're representing the position of the city or your personal capacity, that you state what capacity you are representing. If you do not, the code presumes you are acting in your official capacity because we don't want you to always be erring on the side of caution. So if you're in your personal capacity, say as a resident, my belief is this. Additionally, appearances, if you want to go in front of another board in the city, you cannot do so for 2 years after your term expires for money. You can go pro bono, have a great day, represent everybody you want, but for 2 years afterwards, if you're an attorney, if you're an engineer, if you're a land surveyor, you cannot go in front of that board and represent a client or pay. Misuse and disclosure of official information. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
The representative, so if with my HOA, if I comment on something in writing, I need to say as a resident or,
No, if you're talking about something that's not city related, it's not a problem.
but if they're asking about a city situation and I just want to weigh in, like, will the city repair the road in front of Constellation Field?
That is not your capacity as a 4B member. So then you probably don't have to worry about what you say, but you could say, as a resident of blank HOA, my opinion is this. Now, if you're asking questions on next door or something, you don't need to do that. It's only for providing information or an opinion.
Sorry to digress.
No, please. It's much better for me. And you're gonna find out in just a few minutes that if you ask me questions ahead of time, you get a get out of jail free card. And I like those. So misuse and disclosure of official information. So in the event that you all get sued and you have the misfortune of getting to go to the council dining room and have a nice little attorney-client conversation with me, or if you get economic development information provided to you that's not provided to the general public, you are prohibited by the code and state law from disclosing that information. Should you do so, it's a violation of state law under the Public Information Act and a violation of our code of ethical conduct. You cannot use any any financial information you learn in your capacity from sitting on this board for your personal belief or tell anybody else about that until a public vote has occurred. Participating in procurement. So if a vendor comes in front of city council and wants to have something on the agenda for a contract, council is not allowed to participate in that. State law is very clear on how we do our purchasing. We go out for bids, we post in the certain legal requirements as far as the number of days, how long it must be out there, the type of bid we're receiving, all the stuff that's required, the bonding, everything. So if we find that a council member or a different board member has spoke to that vendor prior to being on the action item of the city council, we will disqualify that vendor. The city will not take the risk of violating state law because a council member decided to have a side conversation. That vendor is probably going to be very unhappy for missing out on that opportunity, and most likely will turn that council member in for the conversation, and that council member will now have to go through the ethics board. So we request that anytime that a vendor talks to you and says, hey, I have some questions related to this upcoming thing, that you direct them to our purchasing department, Jason Mikowski, or just the general purchasing email, and that person will be very happy to answer the questions, keep the council member out of trouble, as well as keep the vendor on the approved list. And the last one, campaign contributions, was single. So you are allowed to accept campaign contribution for running for council from anybody who is not actively suing the city. If somebody is suing the city for damages of 20,000, code has been changed, is actively suing the city for any dollar amount, you cannot accept a campaign contribution from them. If they give it to you, you need to give it back. If you do receive it, it's a violation. We do not want there to be any appearances that somebody is buying a verdict, because if you're suing the city, then my fellow council members will get to come sit in the back room with me and have a confidential conversation under number 3, any confusion and belief that that verdict or that settlement has been purchased. So I went through that extremely fast. This is a fantastic, riveting document. And I know that if you have trouble sleeping tonight, you'll want to go through it line by line. Therefore, you can find it in Chapter 2, Article 4 of the city's Code of Ordinances on the city's website. And if you have questions on the rules, you can always ask for a written opinion from me. If you give me the facts ahead of time, I will send you an email that says, based on the information you have provided me to it, and I will spell out the facts you gave me so you have it all nice and writing. It is my professional opinion that the ethics board would find this to be a violation of this for these reasons, or will not be a violation. You now have a get out of jail free card. If I happen to be wrong, somebody files a complaint and you go in front of the ethics board, you have your get out of jail free card, and it's on me and not you. So I do highly suggest that you give this to me ahead of time, and I can do everything I can to save you and me some time. So if someone doesn't follow these rules, what do they do? Take a breath. I go fast. I'm sorry. Okay, so someone files a written complaint. It must be signed and sworn on a piece of paper. It must allege the name of the person who allegedly violated the code, the section they allegedly violated, and the action must occur within 1 year of the person filing this complaint. It is filed with the city clerk's office. She reviews it, gives it to me. I then verify, signed and sworn, is the person subject to the code? Is the behavior likely to be a violation? And is it within that 1 year time period? If it has, I give it to the board. I then step out. We have independent ethics counsel that comes in because I am conflicted out because I represent you all. I can't represent you all and the board. And so then the board will look at, they do a preliminary review and they go, yes, it meets all the things that city secretary, excuse me, city clerk and city attorney says must be included. And if found true, then it would be a violation. Or they go, wow, even if the facts as presented are true, it would not be a violation, then they dismiss it. They also have an opportunity to enter into a settlement agreement. Settlement agreement, they're gonna have a conversation with the alleged violator and say, hey, you know what, you did this. What do you think? And they'll go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it. I'm so sorry. And then you'll have a settlement agreement that does not go to a full-blown hearing. If you do not have a settlement agreement, they will then have a second hearing, which becomes all kinds of fun and excitement. You have a public hearing, you have witnesses, it goes back and forth, popcorn is shared, and then they come up with their verdict. And their verdict could be any of these sanctions, a letter of notification, all the way down to recommended removal. Now, keep in mind that the independent ethics board did not appoint the people to the board, only city council did. So city council are the only people who can remove it, as well as the only way to remove an elected official is to be recalled out of office by an election. So vote in, vote out, appoint in, appoint out. Went super fast. Before we play the game, Mr. Single, what's your question?
Yeah, so my question on the campaign finance didn't get answered. So my question was, let's say somebody gives $1,000 campaign finance donation. At that time, there's no suing and nothing. It's reported into the campaign finance report.
Yes,
And a year later or whenever a contract related to that person or vendor comes in, what happens? That city council member should be able to vote in or should not be able to vote in? Is there a limit of what is the limit before you recuse yourself from that voting?
So for campaign contributions, we have a amendment that the ethics board has proposed. They would like to bring it forward to the city council to review, but that dollar amount has not been set. So at this time, there is no city rule on the limits for campaign contributions.
So anybody can.
That's not correct. I'm sorry, the ethics was passed last spring and it is $1,000 contribution. And then you have to recuse yourself.
So how much?
1,000.
1,000. So if anybody has donated 1,000 or more, you need to report it before you vote on any issue related to that vendor or person.
Yes, you should have already put on your campaign
Yes.
your contribution reporting to the city clerk's office. But if you see that item on the agenda, then yes, you do need to file a conflicts of interest form, restate what the conflict is, and you are disqualified from voting on that person during this election cycle.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? All right, let's play. So we're gonna play the game of ethics. So to increase revenue, and this is appropriate because this involves y'all. To increase revenue and promote tourism within the city, we have a council member who has a child who has a kayak rental business. And so the council member has suggested to city council for a 4B, hey, you should get in the business. It doesn't matter that the council member's child owns this business. And this is participatory, so please shout out. Yes, it's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
So of course, it's a supportive parent. They talk to, make a few phone calls, so they get the boat ramp idea on the Parks Board agenda. And the Parks Board goes, you know what, this is fantastic. Do we have concerns? Councilmember Jacobson. What is our concern?
Conflict.
Conflict of interest.
Consanguinity.
Yes, and they are using their position to obtain a benefit not open to the rest of the public. So Parks Board thinks this is the best idea ever. They enthusiastically endorse the prospect of the boat ramp, and you know what they say, you would be great, we need food trucks. Because what could be better than a full stomach floating down floating down the Brazos and Oyster Creek? And so everybody goes, you know, that's great. P&Z gets involved, and as they're sitting at a P&Z meeting, working on any little zoning issues that may come up, we have a P&Z commissioner up there, text their spouse, honey, put that bid in. We are gonna make it. Go buy that food truck. Is there a violation by that P&Z member?
Or it's a public
That's a
meeting, right?
public meeting, so.
Public meeting.
Bingo! It's a trick question. It was not a violation because it was presented publicly. So yes, it's a trick question. All right, so no violations on this slide. So we think of the boat ramp is great. We get back in front of this board and the board that just left, so the joint board, and y'all say, you know what? This is the best thing that could ever happen to Sugar Land. Let's ignore all the rules and regulations and give them every incentive we possibly can because we want the absolute best inflatable boat ramp or inflatable kayak company to come to the city. And y'all just give all the money you need for her to start and create her business here. And that council member, lucky council member, sits on both the 4A and the 4B. Is that council member allowed to be in this meeting or must they abstain?
Should abstain.
Are doing great. I have such confidence in y'all. Now the financing is secured. Parks Board and zoning in place, then city council then votes to operate, give her an operation license, and it's exclusive. Nobody else can operate. So the council member, could he have voted during that meeting? Nope. We got a theme going here. This guy's conflicts of interest all over the place. So the first 6 months go fantastic. They're making money hand over fist, more than we could ever imagine. And then of course, Labor Day weekend, an alligator says, look at that. Dinner is being served. And so then the kayaker didn't want to be bit, sues the city and the kayak company. Now, obviously, an inflatable kayak company, despite making a lot of money, is not going to cover a whole lot of medical bills after being bit by the alligator. So the kayak company goes, hello, city, you have deep pockets. You authorize this. You're also being sued. Now they're being sued. They get to have the privilege of coming into executive session with me. Can that council member go into executive session to discuss the lawsuit? No, it's still a conflict of interest because he's got a financial interest in his daughter's business as well. And obviously the daughter has no money. She's already paid her $30,000 in attorney's fees, so she's got nothing left. So city council, we settled a lawsuit and said, that was a really bad idea. We don't want to put food on a boat, float it down the river and offer it up to alligators. So we're just going to let it be open to anybody. There's no exclusive license. Anybody, everybody can operate a boat ramp. Just go pull it off the back of your truck and go for it. So we have a local resident and business owner says, you know what? They made $30,000 off this. I want involved, and I would have put some like anti-alligator food or something around and protected this. This never would have happened. So this resident files a complaint with the Independent Ethics Board. And what do you think the Independent Ethics Board finds? Because we've now reached the day of reckoning. The Independent Ethics Review Board finds a conflict of interest because the council member participated all along. Now, when the Ethics Board reviewed this presentation, I said, okay, what would the punishment have been for all these violations? Had the council member participated every step of the way and not abstained at all, they would have recommended recall. They found this to be an extremely egregious violation of the code. Had the council member made the suggestion at the beginning and then recused themselves from the whole entire process, they would have said, we recognize you like your child. It's not really good with a smell test, but there's really no violation because you recused every step of the way. So if I fall on the rules, off the hook. If I not follow the rules, they want them out. So I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, upstairs on the 3rd floor, be happy to answer them. We'll have a great evening. Good year.
Great job. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to consideration and action on the election of officers for the SL4B Corporation, including the president and vice president to serve 1-year term. And Anna will take us through this.
Okay, so the board is authorized to elect from its members a president and vice president. Last year, the board selected Director Kirk to be president and Director Steve Bezekny to be vice president. And the president presides at all of the board board meetings and performs any duties required by law for the board. And the president may also appoint directors and other persons to serve on standing or ad hoc committees to make recommendations to the board. And the vice president will perform the duties of the president if the president is absent, unable to, or refuses to act on any of the duties assigned by the board. And if there's not any questions, then I'll turn it over to Kurt for nominations.
And before we start, in general, this is considered a citizens board. So we would lean toward having a non-council person running the president and vice presidency, just because that doesn't have to happen, but it's just kind of how we've done it in the past, just to put that one out. No.
I want to renominate Kurt.
I'd second that.
All right.
Are we voting separately, meaning
We vote
this one
separately.
first and then?
Do we vote or do we?
We need
Do
the
we do?
vice president
Let's
to
make a motion
Who's the
and
current vice president, by the way?
sit right next to you. And then a motion for the vice president after.
Can I hear a motion?
okay, I'll make a motion for Sarah to be the president.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Now I'll need a motion for Steve being the vice president.
I'll make it.
Al?
I'll motion for Steve to, once again, be vice president.
I'll second that.
Right, all in favor of Steve being vice president? That passes.
Absentee last year too.
Okay, well, I was gonna say if either of you two wanted it.
We good? Huh? All right, thank you. All right, so Kirk Kirchhoff will be the incoming president for the next fiscal year, and Steve Brzezinski will be the vice president. Okay, thanks. Okay, now we'll move on to workshop review of and discussion of fiscal year 26 fostering unique neighborhoods, the fund grant program application, and Anna will take us through that.
So today I'm gonna present the FY 26 fund grant applications, and we do have a few members from the HOAs here. So if you would introduce yourself, just say your name and the HOA that you're representing, so the board knows that you're here.
I'm Ken Langer with the Barrington Police Homeowners Association.
My name's Kevin Velasic. I'm representing Sugar Mill Homeowners Association.
Robin Hale, and I represent Sugar Creek.
Bill Grantham, First Colony Community Services Association. Mike Wingard, New Territory.
And then you do have some one-pagers with information on the projects, and there's two binders at the corner right there with all of the applications if you guys want to look through them thoroughly. Okay. So just a little overview. The SL4B Fostering Unique Neighborhoods Fund Grant Program is, we're gonna go over the purpose, the funding, the program goals, the requirements and criteria, and go over the applications from Barrington Place, the Highlands, Colony Grant, Sugar Mill, New Territory, FCCSA, and Sugar Creek. And then we'll go over the staff recommendations and eligible applications and board discussion recommendation. About the fund grant program, the purpose is to empower community groups to revitalize and create unique places that reflect the distinct character of each neighborhood and area of commerce. Now, these partnerships promote economic development, workforce retention, and attraction through the transformative power of placemaking, mobility, and beautification that will enhance the quality of life for the community. And the project funding, requests for the SL4B funding must be in the lesser amount of 50% of the project's cost, or at maximum $75,000. And the FY 26 budget is $100,000. Now here are the program goals, and these were used to score the applications. We have to beautify Sugarland's neighborhood and areas of commerce, such as the business park community, office park areas, the way-lasting public art installations, aesthetic improvements, the mural, mosaic, modern signage, public art, wayfinding improvements, and more. And to promote economic development by creating places and quality of life improvements that will help retain and attract Sugarland's workforce and attract new businesses. And develop public spaces with community amenities for all to enjoy, such as the parklets and pocket park. And create inviting outdoor spaces by creating mini parks or green space. And to preserve and celebrate the distinct character of Sugarland single-family neighborhoods. And also to innovate with transformative public projects that the city has not seen before. Now, some of the project requirements, the fund grant program projects need to comply with the program's policy and state eligibility requirements for SL4B funding. Now, qualifying project types includes traffic and street improvements and site improvements, parks and recreation improvements, cultural arts, performing arts, museums, and maintenance-related items will not be considered as a qualifying project. The qualifying fund grant projects can be located on public or private property if the board determines that the private ownership does not diminish or change the public benefit of the project. And all fund grant projects must be located adjacent to or visible from a major collector street, a minor collector street, an arterial street, state highway, or freeway. And you can always look at the policy for full criteria. So to begin going over the applications, we have Barrington Place. Their project is a playground and a pavilion, and this also includes a water fountain, the plumbing for that, picnic tables, and this is their current conditions of the playground. And their total project cost is $171,000, and they're requesting from SL4B 75,000. And this is located on the street over here by West Airport, so it is visible from that thoroughfare. And here's the site plan of where they're gonna install the playground. They have two structures, the pavilion and picnic tables over here on the right, and the swing sets. And this is a rendering of what they expect it to look like. And here we have the Highlands. They're proposing to install a shade structure over their playground. It would be 42 feet by 30 and 12 feet high. And this will extend the life of the playground and maintain a big pool for people to play on. And the frames and canopy selected will be to match the existing structures that they have on site. Their total project cost is $34,415, and they're requesting from SL4B 17,208. And this is located on Planters Row, Planters View, right off of Highway 6. And here's what they expect it to look like over the playground. And here we have Colony Grant. So their project is to install a new playground and add some furniture and fixtures along their trails. This will include the removal and replacement of their current playground, as you can see here, and some of the benches and trash cans that they have along their trails. And this is on Robinson's Ferry, and it's viewable from Williams Grant. Their total project cost is $107,000. And they're requesting from SL4B $53,870. And here's the playground that they're gonna be installing and a swing set as well. And for their furniture and fixtures, we did go over this with our review committee and legal, and we will only be funding the items that are labeled C as a full replacement. Now for Sugar Mill, they have a perimeter wall project. Phase 1 is currently in progress, and they're requesting funding for phase 2. This will be a lightweight concrete fence, and here you can see the current conditions of the fence. Their total project cost is $385,560, and they're requesting from SL4B $75,000. And here you can see a map. It's along Just Hurdle. The other side is the first phase, and the north side is the second phase. And this is just some renderings of what they expect it to look like in similar projects that they've used a concrete wall like this before. And here you can see where the current project is ongoing. Now we have New Territory. They're proposing to install a playground and replace their current structure, as you can see here. This is at Veterans Memorial Park Playground, and it is at the end of New Territory Boulevard, as you can see in the map below. And they will have some integrated features for diverse play. Their total project cost is $115,938, and they're requesting from the SL4B $57,969. And they have two renderings to look at. They have this patriotic colored one, which is red, white, and blue, in theme with the name of the park. And this more army green military colored playground as a second option. Now we have FCCSA. So here they have some monuments with lighting and landscaping located in 4 locations and lighting in 3 parks that they would like to install. Their total project cost is $151,826, and they're requesting from the SL4B $75,000. And here you can see the map of some of the project locations and some of the images that they submitted. There's a lot more in that binder for the other locations of the monument signs. And here's a image of the monument signs that they would like to install and the landscaping and lighting for the Esplanades. And there is the light fixtures that they would like to install in their parks. And here we have Sugar Creek. They're on their proposing to do their third phase of the pedestrian power pass. And this would include benches, some plants, moss rocks, and their total project cost is $62,418. And they're requesting from the SL4B $31,209. And they're located along Country Club Boulevard before you get to Sugar Creek. And here's some images of the current medians and how they would install their paths. And here you can see a closer view of where they would be doing the work and what they hope that it would look like. Now, after reviewing the applications and scoring them with the staff review committee, staff recommends that the following projects for the SL4B Board of Directors approval. We have Barrington Place with the pavilion and playground, the Highlands with the sunshade, Colony Grant with their playground and fixtures, as well as Sugar Mill and the perimeter wall, and New Territory with the playground. And this would bring the total project cost to $814,000 and the amount requested from SL4B at $279,000. Now, after these were reviewed, the staff review committee did not recommend these projects here, which is the FCCSA's monuments, lighting, and landscaping, and Sugar Creek's pedestrian paths. Some of the criteria is how does the projects align with the program goals, and have they received funding in the last 2 years, which Sugar Creek has received funding in the last 2 years, and FCCSA has not. And the staff review committee deemed the following projects ineligible. We had an application from the Highlands that included monuments, which would not be a project that could continue due to the development code. And we also had a group that submitted for art sculptures, but they're not a POA, HOA, or a recognized community group. And some more information here is the monuments were a total cost of $141,000, and the details on the development code, and then the projects for the art sculptures, which was $675,000. And they were requesting $70,500 for the monuments and $75,000 for the sculptures. So after this meeting, we would like to receive a recommendation as to which projects to move forward with for the SL4B meeting in January. And also then we would move forward with the funding resolutions for review and approval. And in the second quarter of FY26, staff would work with the HOAs to execute the reimbursement agreements and complete all the due diligence that was due prior to entering into an agreement with the applicant. So if you guys have any questions on the projects?
Director Diggins.
Thank you. So Anna, we've got $300,000 allocated for this, budgeted for this. And there, one of these tier 2 projects, Sugar Creek, not only is it beautification, et cetera, but it also is safety related. There are no sidewalks in Sugar Creek. So if you pushing your baby in a stroller, you do it in the street. If your child wants to go to a friend's house or a park, they ride their bike in the street. Elderly people have to push their wheelchairs in the street. And I did some calculations here, and what I came up with is that we've got $300,000 budgeted and only $279,000 recommended to be spent. If we were to add the Sugar Creek project in, we would only be going over the 300 by $10,256.54, which could come out of our reserve for opportunities, which is in the budget that we passed recently. So I would like for us to consider, and by the way, if we add that $10,256, it's a $62,000 investment, so it's a 1 to 6 investment, the return on our money. So I would like for us all to consider adding Sugar Creek to that and going into $10,000 into the reserve for opportunities.
Well, and if I may add to that, my understanding is this is the third and final pathway for that Sugar Creek project? Because it was, it was done in steps and phases. This is phase 3. Does this complete the trail work?
Are some already done before?
There is more, but we can. There's 2 more meetings.
I have one question on that. On the Sugar Creek pathway, is there a way going to be get onto the trail, like a crossing, zebra crossing?
There's not a crossing at Sugar Creek and Country Club, which is something.
If you go to the picture you had. Previous, yeah, this one. So to get to the red part in the middle picture, how do you get onto there? You know, in the middle picture on top?
Ramp?
Oh.
No, not ramp, but walking path, like a pedestrian crossing, painted, yeah, on the road.
It's not.
Would that be a safety issue or?
They, generally walk, it's median, so there is a little bit that they have to walk in the middle, and then they walk onto it. At Sugar Creek and Country Club, that would be the beginning going towards Dulles. It would probably, we could put like a bench there and make that a beginning walkway towards that.
No, my suggestion was more for traffic to put a crosswalk there, like to cross the street.
Yes, so because there's no sidewalks, there's no crosswalks. So I think that would be further discussion as to.
And can be considered later separately.
Yeah, a different project.
I'm okay with what Stuart said, and I'm okay to consider that.
So a follow-up. So what are the guidelines that we have in terms of projects for the same subdivision year after year? Is there a number of years? You mentioned that, we did first year and second year. Does there need to be a gap? Or is it every 2 or 3 years that somebody can apply?
So we don't have any restriction as to how often you can apply, but whenever it comes to scoring, there is points as to if you have not submitted a project, then you get extra points.
Okay.
If you submitted a project in the last 2 years, then you do not get those extra points.
Okay, that clarifies my question. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Questions?
So I know this is just a workshop, but are we in general agreement that we would like to push forward with the Sugar Creek project?
Against it.
I support it, yes. Yes.
Thank you all for listening to me.
And are there any questions on any of the other projects? Okay, so what I'm hearing is we will move forward with all of the tier 1 projects and add Sugar Creek's pedestrian paths.
Thank you, Anna. There's still no director's report, so we're on holiday. Very good. All right, I have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. All in favor?